Good morning. Judge Jordan, my friend Jack Markell, family members who have joined me here today, including my sister and my mom and my dad, thank you for being here to see me take the oath of office a second time for a job that I love and that I'm privileged to hold. 2 nights ago, Michelle and I came home a little earlier than expected from the prayer service that kicked off this inaugural. Our boys hadn't expected to see us before they went to sleep, and when we came in, they were so excited that they jumped up and down and cheered in their pajamas. I suspect that I will remember that moment more than anything that happens today. In the midst of all of the inaugural hullabaloo, it was a reminder of what is really important. Adam and Zach, I am incredibly proud of you, and you and your mom are more important to me than anything else. And to my gorgeous wife, Michelle, who works and takes care of the boys and still has enough left to have made our 10 years together the best 10 years of my life, I want to thank you for sacrificing so much that I can do this work. Thank you, honey. "256 days after the governor and I last took our oaths in 2009, on the other side of the world, on the Afghanistan-Pakistan border, a squadron of 53 American soldiers came under attack from Taliban troops. The American soldiers were vastly outnumbered and outgunned. They were surrounded on all sides, and the gunfire was so intense that helicopters could not help them. 8 of them died. There were acts of heroism by American soldiers that day that would dwarf anything that you would see in a Hollywood movie. Specialist Zach Koppes defended a guard post alone for 12 straight hours during the attack, squatting in a Humvee with no working radio, struggling to breathe because of the smoke from the burning camp, dodging sniper fire and rocket-propelled grenades. He held off advancing Taliban fighters. Specialist Cody Floyd, a medic, was injured by shrapnel when a rocket fell early in the attack. And while fire closed in and Taliban fighters infiltrated the camp, he stood with a rifle strapped to himself and treated his injured comrades. During the attack, he had his own blood drawn to transfuse into an injured soldier that he was helping treat. Sergeant Jonathan Hill barely escaped a grenade and then calmed his men who were surrounded by gunfire in buildings, some of which were burning, and led the effort to retake part of the camp that had been overrun by the Taliban. Once he succeeded, he helped run back through gunfire to retrieve the bodies of men who had nicknamed him Dad to ensure that they received a proper burial. I mention all of this today for 2 reasons. One is that our country took too little notice of what these men did. Men like Zach Koppes, Cody Floyd, and Jonathan Hill are American heroes and should be treated as such. So I asked them to come here today to let us do that. Would you please welcome them? Gentlemen. There's a second reason that I mention these men today. Their presence reminds us that we have a sacred obligation to those who have sacrificed for us, to the generation that follows us, an obligation to lay a foundation for greatness. Being the greatest nation on earth is not an inheritance or a guarantee. It must be earned over and over by each generation. And here in Delaware, we do our part by recognizing that greatness comes when we help individuals fulfill their God-given potential. When we recognize that the next Steve Jobs may be the 8-year-old son of a struggling single parent in Wilmington, waiting to be inspired by a great teacher. That the next Sonia Sotomayor may be a toddler in Seaford, whose life will be forever changed by the help that she gets before she's even 3 years old. We have a moral obligation to our state's children to help them achieve. We also have an obligation as patriots to recognize that in their hands lies the future of our state and country. I used to accept this premise on faith, but in the last 8 years I have seen it every day in my own 2 boys. I have seen how teachers have inspired them. I've seen doctors and nurses care for them. I've seen my wife artfully mold them, often through the eloquence of her own example, into the hard-working and kind boys that they are today. And I don't know what their future holds, but I know that it is infinitely brighter because of the adults who surround them. We should want nothing less for each child in this state. Now, what does that mean for us? It means thinking about the future and, where necessary, sacrificing for the future. It means being true to the edict to love thy neighbor as thyself. I have never been more proud of our governor than when he invested the one significant revenue increase that we had in our first term in early childhood education, in 3- and 4-year-olds who may never know him and may never vote for him, but their lives and our state are changed by what he did. Governor, thank you for your courage. And in the next 4 years, we will continue to look to the future. Finally, there is one present-day concern that continues to weigh on all of our consciences. Too many Delawareans are still out of work. Today's not the day to boast about everything we've done or detail everything that we will do to help our state fight back from the worst national recession in almost a century. Suffice it to say that those Delawareans looking for work are also our neighbors, and we are fundamentally responsible for them. We will keep fighting every day towards our simple goal that every Delawarean willing to work will find work. The 3 men that I introduced you to today are exceptional, but not unique. Many from right here in Delaware have put their safety on the line. Just days ago, over 100 Delaware National Guard members deployed for a year in Kandahar. Just last night, I met Stephanie Mason, a member of the Army Reserve who just returned home to Delaware after 2.5 years at Walter Reed Hospital, recuperating from injuries she suffered in Afghanistan. The sacrifices they all have made to protect our country are staggering. What is asked of us, in comparison, is precious little. To look out for our neighbors, now more than ever, when many still struggle, and to care for all of our state's children with a passion that at least approaches that which we feel for our own. If we keep these values in our hearts, they will steer us towards decisions that will fulfill our greatest aspirations for our state and our people, and will bring us closer to the day when we make true the words of the great American poet Walt Whitman, who told us that the strongest and sweetest songs remain to be sung. Thank you for being here with us today.